Welcome back, focused learners. We are jumping right into another fascinating behavioral analysis explainer today. Look, if you've ever wanted to truly connect with the people around you, or let's be honest, get a better grip on your own mind, you absolutely have to master the art of observation. Because as we all know, people are incredibly good at hiding their true selves. What you see on the outside, yeah, that is rarely the full story of what's actually going on inside.
So, seriously, take a second and ask yourself, do you genuinely understand the hidden psychological traits driving your friends, your partner, or even yourself? It's kind of a heavy question, right? I mean, we interact with dozens of people every single day, but we almost never pause to figure out the invisible operating systems running in their heads. Well, today, we're going to decode those systems together.
So here's our structural roadmap for today's explainer. We're breaking down 4 specific personality types: the neurotic overthinker, the distrustful observer, the hypersensitive empath, and the cynical skeptic.
Let's dive right into number 1, the neurotic overthinker, trapped in anxiety and fear.
Basically, a neurotic personality is someone whose baseline is just constant anxiety. These are the folks who tend to hit the panic button over really small issues. They'll overthink a situation without any logical reason, and they basically live in a state of regret, just replaying past mistakes on an endless loop. They just struggle deeply to regulate their emotional responses to normal, everyday stress.
To put that into perspective, think about an upcoming exam. A normal reaction is just simple, manageable nervousness. But for the neurotic mind, it's an instant, catastrophic spiral. They jump straight to, I'm going to fail, my life is totally over, I'm ruined. It's this overwhelming wave of negativity. And the irony here is that getting trapped in that spiral of fear is usually what ends up ruining their actual performance because they're just too paralyzed to focus.
And the real-world fallout from this? It's pretty heavy. This trait completely holds people back. They're absolutely terrified of taking career risks. In relationships, that constant overthinking creates these unnecessary, completely exhausting fights. Their self-confidence tanks because they just don't trust their own decisions. And honestly, perhaps the most damaging part is that a neurotic person's negativity acts like a giant vacuum. It will eventually just drain the energy out of anyone close to them.
But wait, here is the really fascinating twist. Because the neurotic mind is literally always imagining every single possible outcome, they are uniquely equipped to generate highly creative ideas that the rest of us would never even consider. They are absolute masters in anticipating problems and multitasking. The secret? They just have to learn to harness that stress and point that overactive imagination in a positive direction. If they can do that, their biggest weakness literally becomes their greatest strength.
All right, moving on to number 2. The distrustful observer, the architect of doubt.
Now, this trait carries a really heavy burden. This is an individual who chronically doubts everyone around them. They just do not let people in easily. They're highly selective, they rarely show their true cards, and they are constantly, almost exhaustingly, demanding proof of loyalty. In their mind, betrayal is always just around the corner, waiting for them.
We've all stared at those 3 little typing dots on a text message, right? Well, imagine the reply is delayed. A normal person just assumes, oh, whatever, they must be busy. But for the distrustful person, their brain immediately jumps to suspicion. Why aren't they replying? Who else are they talking to? The mental alarm bells are literally ringing because they got left on red for 5 minutes.
As you can imagine, the collateral damage here is massive. This level of suspicion leads to endless misunderstandings. Sometimes they even start viewing their closest, most loyal friends as hidden enemies. And over time, pushing everyone away like that leads to severe loneliness. But the real tragedy? It totally destroys their own inner peace. You simply cannot relax if you firmly believe everyone is out to get you.
Yet there's a hidden superpower here too. Because they are always on high alert, distrustful people are incredibly sharp observers. Like, they will notice tiny, micro details in body language or a shift in tone that goes right over everyone else's head. That is a massive asset. If they can just learn to balance that doubt and use their observation skills positively instead of defensively, they become brilliantly perceptive.
Okay, let's hit number 3, the hypersensitive empath, taking the world to heart.
We probably all know someone like this. Hypersensitivity is when someone internalizes totally minor comments as major world-ending issues. A casual piece of feedback, or just a slight change in your tone of voice, is instantly perceived as a deeply personal attack. Because of this, they go through frequent emotional breakdowns and basically take absolutely everything straight to the heart. Imagine you casually tell a friend, hey, you're late. Normal reaction? Yeah, sorry, bad traffic today. But the hypersensitive reaction? They interpret it as a direct hit to their character. They start thinking, oh no, they think I'm careless. I'm such a burden. Nobody even wants me here. A tiny, factual observation just snowballs into a full-blown crisis of self-worth.
And living like that takes a huge toll. It creates so much unnecessary daily drama. What's worse, they start leaving their major life decisions up to the opinions of others, just because they're terrified of being criticized. This cycle of chronic emotional breakdowns slowly but surely just chips away at their self-confidence until they feel totally powerless.
But listen, do not mistake them for being weak, because they aren't. That exact same emotional depth that causes them so much pain, it also makes them naturally, deeply empathetic. They understand other people's pain better than anyone. They're incredible listeners, deeply caring, and honestly, they are the most fiercely loyal friends you will ever find. The fix? They just need to find a little emotional balance.
And finally, number 4, the cynical skeptic, finding the selfish motive.
This is a mindset that straight up rejects the very concept of genuine goodness. If you do something nice for a cynic, they don't feel gratitude, they feel suspicious. They assume every single good deed is driven by some hidden, selfish motive. And because they view the world this way, they keep a strict emotional distance from everyone and refuse to believe anyone acts out of pure kindness.
Think about being at work, and a colleague goes totally out of their way to help you finish a tough report. Most of us would just be like, wow, thank you so much. But the cynic? They instantly twist it. They're thinking, yeah, right, they don't care about me. They're just doing this to impress the boss, or maybe to make me look incompetent. They literally cannot accept a kind gesture at face value.
The downside to viewing the world through this lens is severe emotional isolation. Because they're always rejecting kindness, other people often just write them off as rude or unapproachable. And internally, they are dealing with massive emotional stress because they're constantly trying to play 4D chess, figuring out how someone is trying to use them. Naturally, this completely stalls the growth of any real relationships.
But hey, you cannot deny their superpower. A healthy dose of cynicism is actually a fantastic tool for survival and risk management. Nobody is scamming this person. They rarely get taken advantage of, and they are top tier at spotting actual real-life manipulation. The trick for the cynic is just balance. Maintain that caution, sure, but learn to occasionally trust that good people actually exist.
So, let's pull all this together. As we've seen, all 4 of these traits carry a pretty heavy dark impact, but they also hide an incredibly powerful superpower. Look, psychological analysis isn't just about slapping a label on your friends and judging them. It's about understanding our own internal coding. Because once you actually recognize your weaknesses, you stop letting them control you. You can manage them, and you can harness those incredible strengths hiding right beneath the surface.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. And I want to leave you with one final provocative question. Which of these traits is secretly controlling your mind? Are you maybe a bit more neurotic than you'd like to admit? Or kind of cynical? Remember, the goal here isn't just to analyze everybody else, it's to look in the mirror. Identify your trait, take control of the dark side, and unleash that hidden superpower. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, focused learners. Keep observing, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one.